Hey, what's going on, drinking buddies? It's the night before I leave for AVN 2018. It's a new year. Once again, thank you for all your support. Shit. Thank you for tuning in every week. Do us a solid. Go to iTunes, rate us 5 stars if you could. It would be super appreciated. Better we are in the ratings, better guests we can get for you. Not that the guests we aren't getting right now are pretty fucking great, I gotta say. I may have had a couple while I was doing the edit for this week's episode. This shit happens. Before we get into that, a word from our sponsors. This week's episode is brought to you by our homies at Laughable. Laughable is the #1 comedy podcast app on iOS. Not only can you subscribe to your favorite artists, your favorite shows, they give recommendations, and you can buy comedy tickets in-app. It's fucking amazing. Get it today in the iOS store. If you're an Android user, go to www.laughable.com and get on the waiting list. You will not be sorry when they roll that shit out. Also, we are brought to you by our friends at Ghost Tequila. Ghost Tequila is a 100% agave, 80-proof Blanco tequila infused with ghost peppers. Oh, dude. I really wish I wasn't out right now. I could go for a shot for it. Shot of it? I could go for a shot of it. If you're at AVN 2018 in Vegas, find me. There will be Ghost Tequila with me. We'll do shots. It'll be rad. So now that we got, the paying folks out of the way, this week our guest is the one, the only, Mr. Jimmy Broadway, the fetish director. Been responsible for a lot of amazing fetish films. The man behind Severe Society films. Check it out. We go all over the place. Fetish, real life play, a little bit of politics, just a tad. It happens to happen when we drink. This was a super fun one. We get into films. It's all over the place, guys. So enjoy Mr. Jimmy Broadway. Well, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, hey, I'm happy to have you. We were talking before you got on air about that you used to do independent short films, stuff like that before you got in the biz.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought the transition from...
Well, we'll take it back all the way to the beginning. I started long ago, early 80s.
Okay, awesome.
Doing local access cable. I commentated. The first thing I ever did in television was commentating as I shot high school soccer.
Very cool.
Had a small microphone taped to the side of the camera, and I just panned back and forth up and down the field. And back in Connecticut, where I grew up, the cable franchise laws were such that they had to provide public access in every community that they had a franchise. And our cable company was kind of smart. They said, why should we pay rent on a space when we can go to the high school and the library and say, hey, we'll give you some equipment if you give us a place to put it. So the public access in our town was run through the high school and the library. And our high school had a cable television station that aired stuff every Friday and Saturday. We had a talk show. We had a news show. We did most of the high school sports. All the concerts, school plays, all that stuff.
Very cool. I'm actually really curious because I obviously wasn't working in film in any way, shape, or form at that point. What goes into editing VHS?
Absolutely nothing.
Fair enough.
We were not really in the editing stage, so what went on the tape went on the air. which got several people in trouble over the course of a season.
I can imagine. Tempers flare. People say things that shouldn't go up.
It's not so much tempers because our high school soccer team, boys and girls, both won the state championship that year. So there wasn't a whole lot of temper, but there was a fair degree of stupidity.
You're dealing with high school students.
Exactly.
What happens?
But yep, jumping ahead a couple of decades, my wife and I were both involved in a co-op made primarily of screenwriters who had gotten frustrated and they had all these great ideas and nobody would ever make them into movies. I said, well, we've got enough people that we could make a movie. And they made one and then came to me for a little technical advice, and I joined the group. And we made, I believe, 60 short films over 4 years.
That's really impressive, actually.
And it was, the secret to it was that everybody was involved. So you do, direct your project, but the person who directed the last project might be your sound guy, and the person who's directing the next project might be doing your catering. And eventually we kind of fell into roles that we were all comfortable with, but it was a whole lot of that group effort that made it possible to crank out that kind of volume, because you weren't always the producer and the director and the writer. So you could take a couple of months off to work on the development side of your project until it was time to actually shoot it.
Well, and that's great because you had people that were actually dedicated to getting stuff done and were, willing to actually be part of a community. You don't see much of that anymore.
And you had to care.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't care about somebody else's project, they weren't going to care about yours, and then yours was going to fail, and you were going to be sad.
And nobody wants that.
No. But the group actually turned out to be quite successful. Got a number of things into a number of festivals. And that was back before really there was internet streaming. So the company called Atom Films had just come out with a website where you could submit stuff, but they didn't take a whole lot. And since they were the only ones really doing anything out there, they were getting a ton of submissions.
Oh, I'm sure. And this is the days when storage space was at a premium,
mm-hmm.
So that makes sense why they didn't take everything. I'd hate to think how much YouTube spends in their storage, even though they're Google and have unlimited, but it's still got to be a fucking ton. I wonder, actually, I'm kind of curious if there are stats on how much actual data YouTube takes up.
I know that it's physically impossible to watch everything that is uploaded to YouTube in one day in the average human lifetime.
Oh yeah, it's a staggering amount that is uploaded daily. I think it was something like 40 terabytes, if not more, like a day or a minute.
I would go with the minute on that one.
I may be just talking out of my ass. I've been known to do that once or twice.
Now, if we're talking asses, that's a completely different movie.
Have you made that movie?
We have not made that movie. But if we were to, Charlotte, who we were discussing earlier, would have to be the talking ass.
Oh, of course. Her ass is so hungry.
It's funny because in the AVN Fan Awards, I believe it's the AVN Fan, either the AVN or the XBiz Fan Awards, there is a category for Best Ass. And she's nominated. And people were giving him shit about it. It's like, why is this? I mean, it's skinny. And it's like, have you seen what that ass can do?
Do they need to make it?
It's not just a pillow sitting there on the bottom of her tailbone. That thing has a personality all its own and talents that are just beyond comprehension.
Maybe they need to make, best anus and best butt.
Yeah.
Two separate categories. So you have the girls that have the Alexis Texas ass, not competing against girls like Charlotte, who's, her ass will eat everything.
Yes.
One day it will devour the world.
You get the random text from Czechoslovakia. Actually, it's the Czech Republic now. And she's over there shooting, hey, did triple anal today. And I was like, okay, how do you even position the guys for that?
I don't even know. I wouldn't even...
Because at a certain point, it's not so much about what's going in, it's just how to get all the accompanying body into a position to make it happen.
And make it in a position where they're open to be filmed, too.
Right, yeah.
So, back to what we were talking about on the YouTube front. A report from 2012 says there is 4 billion video views per day and uploading 60 hours of video every minute. And that's from 2012.
Okay.
So,
it's probably doubled.
According to this, in 2012, it was up 25% that year.
Okay.
So, 200-300% since then, I would guess.
Easily.
Yeah. 2012, we didn't have smartphones that could just stream right to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's crazy. That is absolutely nuts. But sorry, got sidetracked there.
Once or twice, but it was an interesting journey.
So, you went from, this collective.
So we had the short film collective, and my wife and I are actually both lifestyle fetish players.
Very cool.
And we were going to this club that was held at a professional dungeon down in Lenox. And every time we went in there, the owner of the club would hit up D and go, hey, if you ever want to come work here, I'd love to have you. And after about 2 years of this, we had a little talk about it, and she finally decided to go give it a try. Realized that she didn't really like being a professional dominatrix at a house. For those of you who aren't familiar with houses of domination, you pretty much don't get a lot of ability to screen your clients. It's whoever walks in the door is the client of the night. I mean, yes, they check for cleanliness and safety, and make sure he's not doesn't have a machete in his bag and a drawer full of meds or something. But if he's into something that you're not into, you pretty much, if you want to get paid that night, you
got to pretend to be into it.
Pretend to be into it, and she wasn't real thrilled with pretending. But the guy who hired her had also produced 2 DVDs. Was looking to produce a third. Found out about our film work and asked if we would do his third DVD. That one turned into 5. That was in the early days of clips for sale. So we opened 4 clip stores for him and spent 2 years running his video department.
Very cool.
Realized that if we were going to still be friends, we probably shouldn't have a business relationship.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy, but not a nice boss. Had some technical comprehension issues. It's like, why does it take so long to edit? And I want to change these 3 things. What do you mean it won't be ready till Tuesday now? But
what, do you just think you're going to wave a wand over it?
Mm-hmm. The concept of rendering was lost on him. And that's still 12 years later, still the bane of our existence is render time. It's just, you put it on the computer right before you go to bed, and you wake up in the morning and you've got video.
Hopefully. Sometimes you're 50% to video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know those pains.
So we went out on our own as Severe Society Films, and we did that for about 8 years, and decided we had to upgrade our distribution, which is when we signed a deal with Exile, and under the advice of Howard Levine, who is the best distribution manager type person one could ever ask for. We rebranded the company as Severe Sex, and now we're here.
Awesome. So, I don't know how comfortable you are about talking about your play in your personal life on air.
Well, ask questions. I can always say I'd rather not talk about that, but
that's fine.
away.
I mean, feel free to be like, fuck you, Matt. That's over the line. So, what sort of stuff are you guys into? Like, I am so vanilla. I'm, and I shouldn't be, but I am.
Why shouldn't you be? Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
Yeah, but maybe there's more I'm missing out on.
Well, that's a possibility. But if you're happy with what you're doing and it's doing it for you, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I didn't know I liked skydiving until I did it.
True. I mean, I would suggest just start looking at movies, and if you see something in there that say, hey, that looks interesting, find somebody who's willing to try it with you. I mean, you don't have to go right out and, dive off the deep end right away. You can take baby steps.
That doesn't sound as much fun, though.
There are professionals out there that can guide you. A lot of people don't realize that. There's nothing wrong with seeing a professional, sex worker to experience something that you haven't been able to find in day-to-day life.
I definitely agree. I think there's absolutely no... I can talk tonight, too. I don't think there's anything wrong with sex work in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be sitting here if I did. For me, in previous experiences, sex work didn't really appeal to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I have no problems with it, but it's just like the very transactional, like, business nature of it didn't appeal to me.
But when you went skydiving, did you just grab a buddy who you knew had skydived before, or did you go to a skydiving school and make your first jump with an experienced professional?
Well, technically both, but
okay.
I grabbed a buddy and said, hey, we're going skydiving. And then we went to a professional.
Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with going to that professional. It's going to give you a better feel for the actual experience, and it's a lot safer, depending on what you're trying to experience.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I've never really thought about it that way.
And I know plenty of professional doms and dominatrixes that are more than happy to work not in a complete session mode, but to give people the experience. And a lot of times they'll work with couples. You'll get a couple that, hey, we've been thinking about trying this and we're not sure how it works. And the pro will kind of guide them through it together and show them how it works.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like advanced sex ed.
Basic sex ed was not good. I feel like at the time all they were trying to do is scare you into not having sex. Like, this is what horrible genital warts look like. If you have sex once, you will get this.
Oh no.
This is a horrible, horrible syphilis scar. You will get this if you have sex. I feel like that's all they were really trying to teach you at the time.
I don't really remember much of the specifics of our sex ed. It's like I remember they told us what the parts were and where they went, and that's about all I remember from it.
Well, they definitely didn't, teach you that, hey, this is pleasurable, or masturbation's okay. There definitely in sex ed was no talk about self-stimulation. I can really talk tonight. I'm going to drink more. Maybe that'll help my cadence. Speaking of which, how do you like the Willet?
I love the Willet. It's a very smooth cocktail.
Yeah, no, I'm really digging it myself. They should definitely rehash sex ed everywhere, especially some parts of this country where they're teaching abstinence. That's just crazy to me.
I don't have a problem with teaching abstinence as long as you teach it as one element of the big picture. Because I think there's definitely a place for abstinence. And I think, kids should know it's okay. If you don't want to have sex or you don't feel comfortable having sex, don't have sex. Not doing it is okay right now or anytime.
Oh, yeah. No.
If you're just not in that place right now, don't do it. And I think if they, instead of making it this big, scary, this is what you must do, but they presented it as an option, I think they might find that more kids would be okay with abstinence, because it's, yeah, I know what I could do, but I also know that I can do this, rather than that this is the only thing you should do, in which, being rebellious teenagers, they go, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want to do, and go completely the other way.
Well, if they teach abstinence is okay as part of the big picture, you also wouldn't have people there wouldn't be a shame behind abstinence at that point.
Exactly.
Because, I definitely remember being a teenager being like, what, you can't get laid? And there's shame in that. So as a 16-year-old male, you're hunting for sex.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that and your hormones tell you have to.
I mean, now I don't know how old you are, but I mean, at least for me, it was so bad that we would sit there and kind of stare at the scrambled cable channels.
Yeah, I did that.
I think that's a nipple. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm 36, so I experienced the scramble.
Okay.
I thankfully didn't grow up in the age of internet porn. I feel that we have a whole generation of people just ruined by it.
I wouldn't say ruined. I would just say in need of a lot more help.
It being so readily available, I feel fucks up people's expectations.
That I can agree with.
People are, I've read articles about kids these days, using porn as essentially sex ed, thinking that porn sex is what real sex should be.
Right.
Which it
and that's
definitely
because there is no real sex ed to counter that. So,
and even if there is good real sex, wow, I'll have to apologize. I'm on like 3 hours of sleep, so my brain is apparently not working. The real sex ed isn't as graphic, and you definitely couldn't pleasure yourself to it. So as a teenage male or a teenage female, you get exposed to, oh, hey, there's two people getting it on. That brings me pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's obviously how it's supposed to be. I've never asked a partner to open up in real life. And they don't know that.
And the thing is, you see stuff on camera, and there's no talk of how they do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not really sex ed. It's because there's no instruction involved in it. It's just seeing the end. It's like handing somebody a cake and expecting that, oh, now I know how to bake a cake because I have a cake. No, you don't know how to bake a cake. You just have a cake.
Yeah, you know how to eat cake.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. But what do we do about it as a society?
As a society, I think and it's going to be a struggle, because in the current political climate, it's an uphill battle, but for the overall benefit of us as a society, we have to have comprehensive education.
Definitely. We also need to decriminalize sex work. We also need to get rid of the stigmas of it. While I was in Amsterdam, me and my buddies were talking about this. Like, could you imagine growing up in a place where prostitution was not only legal but readily accepted? Think about that, being a 16-year-old male and being like, in 2 years, I can just go to the red light district. It would totally change your attitudes about sex.
Yeah. Because, number one, you wouldn't feel this pressure to, drag your partner into something that they're not ready for. With a little experience, your first time with a new person is going to be better.
Definitely.
And it's not going to be frightening if one of you is really good the first time, which I know puts a lot of pressure on. Wait a second. How did they figure out all that?
And that attitude has to go the way of the dodo, too. Like, I want a partner who's experienced. Sex isn't Mount Everest. You're not planting a flag. So you've had a lot more partners than me. Guess what? We're here together tonight.
Yeah.
That's the important part. I'm not a goddamn Adonis, but hey, if you want to see me naked, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be self-conscious about getting naked because you want to see me naked.
Yes.
More people need to understand that you got to be in the moment and just try to lose your hang-ups. I mean, easier said than done, obviously. Mm-hmm. I swear I had a point.
A point or a pint?
Little column A, little column B. This is And Now We Drink.
Yes, it is.
I unfortunately was at a Hollywood Hills party till almost 5 a.m.
Fortunately, the hills aren't that far.
Yeah. The problem was I had to be up at 9, so it was one of those. Party was still raging. I'm like, I have to leave. I have to fucking leave. Otherwise, I'm getting no sleep. And I have a podcast tomorrow night. It will be hot garbage if I'm like falling asleep on mic.
Yeah, that's never good.
I love Hollywood Hills after parties. It was catered, open bar. I'm like, okay, sure, cool. I love seeing how the other half lives. That is not my normal life. And if you couldn't tell, we get on tangents on this show.
Yes, we do.
So backtracking to your career and your evolution in the industry.
Yeah, what was the original topic again?
Well, we were slowly getting into how you got to where you are now.
Okay.
From independent to your current releases. Yeah, what kind of stuff do you guys primarily focus on for the the fetish films you shoot?
Oh, we have several different directions we like to take things. One of them, championed by my wife, Dee Severe, is the BDSM romantic comedy.
Please elaborate.
She has she just finished her third one. It's up for several award nominations this year.
Is it up for best comedy?
It is, and she was so excited to get that one because our projects have frequently been nominated for best BDSM release. I think we've had at least one nomination in that category for the last 9 years.
Congratulations!
But to finally make that jump into either best parody or best comedy or even best drama, it was a big step, and we finally took it this year.
That's awesome. The movie I'm in's actually up for best comedy, so I can't wish you good luck on winning, but if we don't win, I hope you guys win.
Okay. Well, what's the one you're in?
I'm in Jews Love Black Cock from Burning Angel. I play a rabbi in it. I'm actually up for best non-sex performance.
Well, you can win that one, and we can win the best comedy.
Done. Done.
I don't think Joanna and the Small Hands are going to argue too much about that one.
They might a little. Just a little.
They don't argue with us.
Fair enough.
We get along very well.
I love those two.
So do I. They're such a fantastic couple. And but anyway, so this year's BDSM romantic comedy is Corrupted by the Evils of Fetish Porn. And it's semi-autobiographical. It stars Casey Warner. And it's about a girl who wants to be a filmmaker and has a job as a mainstream editor and gets fired. And one of her filmmaker friends makes her swear to secrecy, but turns her on to a gig editing fetish porn. And she does it. And she kind of journeys into that world and discovers that she likes it and meets a guy there. Happens to be Lance Hart, who did a phenomenal job as our male lead.
I love Lance.
He is such an amazing human being. I just wish we saw more of him.
Yeah, him and Charlotte are talking about moving to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I keep trying to talk her out of it. I lived in Vegas for a couple of years. I'm like, you sure? You really sure you want to live there? I understand it's cheap, but it's cheap for a reason.
But the community there is growing.
It is.
As a matter of fact, our plan is to head that way in about 9 months.
Well, best of luck to you there. For me, being a single dude, it's a bad scene for being a single dude. A lot of the locals are very cliquish because everyone's so transient. They don't want to invest time into people that they
in
don't
a friendship that's going to disappear in 6 months.
Right, and I can't blame them on that.
Yeah.
But in the 3 years I was there, I maybe met a handful of people that weren't in the biz. Mm-hmm. And I'm a dude, especially in those days, who would be out at bars multiple nights a week. But you can't beat the rent. it's still better than a lot of places.
Yeah. I mean, it's when we started, because our lease is up, and we started looking at our options, and for what we want to do, we could go to the Valley, and that would double our overhead, or we could go to Vegas, and that would knock about $1,000 off our overhead.
And you probably get a damn mansion out of it.
And that's the plan. Right now, we've got a very large live-work studio on the east side of downtown, and our new plan is a 4 to 5 bedroom house, which would be quite a change because we've never lived in a house. We had an apartment down at the beach for the first 15 or so years together, and we've been in the studio for the last 6.
Very cool.
And just to have a house with 4 walls and a roof that nobody is leaning on or walking on.
And having a yard would be awesome.
Having a yard. The dogs don't know what a yard is. They will be quite pleased with this yard concept. One of them will probably, because we want to get a pool too, and one of them will probably be scared to death of the pool.
That's a must for Vegas. I couldn't imagine living in a house without a pool. 100% those 120-degree summers.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have a pool. Plus, fun pool parties.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing we got to figure out. We got to find a place that's secluded enough where we can have fun pool parties and not have that knock on the door from the neighbor. Yeah, my 13-year-old saw what was going on last night. We'd prefer if you didn't do that anymore.
Most of the Vegas properties, I feel like, have like brick walls around their yards.
Yeah, but it's still that 2-story, the upper window kind of thing.
That's their problem if they're looking from the upper window.
Well,
that's my opinion, at least.
We just go for a nice, peaceful relationship with the neighbors.
Well, definitely. I mean,
we've got that now. That's one of the things we're gonna feel bad about leaving is we have the most amazing neighbors. It's a Hispanic family that, because we're in the produce district, and they're wholesale produce vendors. It's a family business. I believe everybody who works there is related in some manner. Only half of them speak English, which has been, was supposed to be good for me because I was going to learn how to speak Spanish well enough to get to purchase vegetables. Hasn't happened. It's a lot of pointing and stuff, but they are just the nicest neighbors in the world.
That's awesome.
They don't care what we do. They are happy that we're there. I mean, the parade of people that has walked by their front door into our front door has been very interesting. Never a word about it. They're just happy that we're good neighbors, that we keep an eye on their place, they keep an eye on our place, and life is good. That's awesome.
And good on them that they're trying to live the American dream, and so are you guys.
Yeah.
And everyone's coexisting. That's awesome.
It's the way it should be.
Definitely.
I mean, they're like I said, I've never discussed their immigration status. I honestly don't really want to know unless it's something they want to talk about, and they feel concerns about situations. Yeah, I'll listen to them because they're good people and I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, help them out any way you can.
But if everyone there is not 100% legal, they all work their ass off. They are there at 6 o'clock in the morning. They leave at 5 o'clock every night, 365 days. I mean, they will be there at least a partial day on Christmas Day. And I mean, they represent everything that is good about immigration in this country.
Definitely. And
I mean, they're not a burden. They are not taking from the public any more than any other normal citizen. I mean, they use police services and fire services and drive on the roads and everything, but they're not on welfare. They're
probably paying taxes.
Yeah, they pay their taxes. They pay their rent. And they all work hard and provide a service, and that's the way it should be.
Damn right. And I mean, I hate things get political when you drink. It happens.
It does.
I honestly feel like a lot of the immigrants that aren't even here legally are doing jobs that the average American wouldn't want to do. So if they're feeling that need, good on them.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Hell, I read a report about There was fruit rotting on the vine because a lot of immigrants were afraid once Trump took office that they were going to be deported and weren't showing up to their agriculture jobs. There's food rotting because these people are afraid to work. They're trying to work.
Right.
The fuck? What's wrong with them trying to do the job? I don't see, any of my peers lining up to go pick berries or apples or oranges.
And not on a regular basis. I mean,
it's a fun day trip.
Yeah, exactly. It's the cute day trip. Yeah, let's go pick strawberries, sweetheart. Okay, and you get your little basket of strawberries and you go home.
You eat half of them, and
yeah, but I don't see Muffy, the 25-year-old white girl from Van Nuys out there putting in 14-hour days during picking season to get the bushels on the truck.
Right, being covered in thorns and yeah. So more power to them that they're willing to do jobs, janitorial work, back a house in the kitchen. Good on them. Yeah. And maybe they provide for their family and the next generation has a better job and they're providing for their family. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them, they're sending money. They're getting their kids through school. So, I mean, their kids aren't picking fruit. Their kids are working as accountants or going to med school, and that's another problem. You've got these immigrant doctors coming over that can't get work in the American medical profession, but yet we have a shortage of qualified American doctors and nurses. It doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. Not at all. A lot of things are backwards. It just doesn't make any goddamn sense. Because, I'm not of Native American descent. I don't think you are either. At one point, our ancestors came over and did the same thing.
Yeah.
And now, because there are so many people trying to come to America, America doesn't want to take everyone. So people have to come here illegally to try to have a better life. It sucks.
It's a lot of, we got our better life, now fuck you. It's like, why shouldn't the next person get that same opportunity to have the better life?
Yeah, they should. Just because they had the misfortune of not being born here. That's the thing. I think it's so silly that everyone's like, I'm a Californian, I'm an American, I'm some arbitrary thing that you had no control over.
Mm-hmm.
You're proud of something that's not your accomplishment. Your parents fucked you into existence here. How is that something to be proud of? That's not your achievement. That's just your luck.
Yeah. That's your starting point.
Right.
It's what you do with that makes you a success or a failure. But just to be born into existence, you did nothing. You deserve nothing from that.
I definitely agree. 100%. This world is what you make of it, and you shouldn't take pride in something that you had no control over. Wow, we totally made a sharp turn away from porn.
Oh, yeah.
This has been known to happen on this show once or twice.
Nothing wrong with it. I think we need more intelligent discussion in this country.
Well, I'll let you know when I'm capable of doing that.
Well, that was an intelligent stretch.
I'm sorry, folks. It won't happen again.
There was no screaming. There was no slandering. It was very respectful and with well-founded ideas.
I wouldn't go they're well-founded, but yeah, they're ideas.
They're ideas.
I'm going to pause for 30 seconds because I need a refill, and I didn't bring the bottles to the table. How are you doing?
I could do another finger or two.
All right, we'll just bring the bottles to the table so we can... All right, so we've refilled our drinks and then decided to bullshit without the mic running for like 20 minutes.
You guys probably wouldn't care about what we're doing.
Yeah, we totally gear-headed out on audio gear.
Totally. Maybe sometime we'll come back and we'll just do a total geek out on audio gear for anybody who gives a shit about that.
Yeah, that cares about that. We're now recording on Shure SM7Bs and my Zoom Live Track 12 versus what we used to record on.
Yes, because I don't like to talk too much about the mainstream side of my work. I will confess that I am an audio engineer on the mainstream side. And it's been very interesting in the porn world when, like, just looking at how people do things and going, for what you're spending on that, or for a little bit more than you're spending on that, you could do that so much better, so much easier, so much cleaner.
So what would you change about my setup?
Your setup?
Because I am not an audio engineer. I am completely self-taught on all of this.
I would probably add some sound baffling of some sort.
That's been suggested before, too. It's just running it by the roommate.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it that are very unobtrusive and not permanent.
Okay.
I mean, the simplest and cheapest is Harbor Freight, a dozen little A-clips, and some packing blankets. You just want to eliminate as much of the hard surface as possible. I mean, to be honest, an IKEA throw rug under the table and chairs here would help a bit.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's why there's a blanket on the glass table.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering. It's a lovely Afghan. I mean, again, delving deep into my past, my mother is a prolific knitter. Still is to this day. But we never lacked for the knit Afghan, the sweater. It's funny. My nephews and niece on my brother's side requested ugly Christmas sweaters this year. So my mom is from scratch making them each an ugly Christmas sweater with the elements that they have asked for in the sweater. I cannot wait to see the pictures of these things.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, she's... I mean, this kind of goes into the whole, femdom and, empowered female thing. From day one, I grew up with very strong women in my life. And very talented women in my life. My mother, like I said, she knits. She just does. She's constantly doing things at a very high level.
That's awesome.
Her sister is one of the most amazing artists I've ever met. Entirely self-taught. Well, I shouldn't say entirely self-taught, because she did take a safety class when she decided that she wanted to do welded metal sculpture. So she went and learned how to properly weld without burning things down.
Oh, come on. Burning things sounds fun.
Yeah, but, no matter how well off you are, you can only torch so many barns on your property before your husband says, we really are not going to do this anymore.
Oh, and plus your insurance premiums. The insurance companies tend to frown on that shit.
Well, that's the thing about my uncle. He's very well off and doesn't like people he doesn't know. So he went through a stretch over 20 years where anytime anything within 25 miles of him was up for sale, he bought it. And he slowly amassed this enormous, basically a state park that he owned. None of it, he never wanted to develop it. He just didn't want neighbors.
Well,
so
that's one way to be a hermit.
Yeah, he did it well. But my aunt, she went from watercolors to oil paints to, like I said, metal sculpting, needlecraft. At one point, she decided she'd always liked flowers and plants and stuff, and she went to the New York Botanical Garden and became a certified botanical artist.
Wow.
So I don't know if anybody realizes this, but when you go to a botanical garden or a museum or a place like that, and you see an illustration of a plant, the person who created that illustration has to be certified.
Really?
They have to be skilled enough to present, because it's a scientific, even though it's art and a picture,
it's like the art of a human anatomy, essentially.
Yeah, it has to be scientifically accurate. So she received her certification in botanical painting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And she just does stuff like this, and it's phenomenal to be around, as an adult, but as a child, it was fantastic.
So do you think being around someone who's talented and successful at their talent at a young age encourages you that that's possible to be successful in an artistic field?
I mean, to be honest, I don't even think the success is the important part. It's the fact that she embraced all these things and was so supportive. So anytime, the kids were bored, it's like she would throw paints out. There were always, art supplies and anything we wanted to, if we wanted to build stuff, if we wanted to make stuff, we always had the resources to do that. And it could be the weirdest, strangest thing. It could be, a wobbly shelf. It could be whatever. But that support and encouragement was always there. It's like, you're creating something. Good for you. Keep doing that. Always keep creating. And I think that's, something that has, served me very well, over 50 plus years. It's, now I do a lot of on the backside of our productions. One of the things I love to do is the art direction stuff. And for anybody who saw Heartbreaker versus Obscura, it was from a completely original lesbian superheroine film that we produced. But it's like, oh, I got this list from our director, and okay, we need blasters, we need this, and just to go and go down to Home Depot and sort through bins of stuff and make 2 blasters for the 2 guards was one of the most fun parts of that whole process, because you're just making things.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I'm just personally kind of curious about it because I come from a long line of blue collar workers and stuff like that. There was no real artistic encouragement coming up, so it's just really curious to see someone who came from a background that had artistic encouragement, people that were successful in it, that showed that you could be successful being a creative.
But even on the blue collar side, I mean, and something I got from my dad was woodworking and craftsmanship. So, I mean, one of the projects I'm working on right now at our studio is I'm building a church set. And for anybody who follows me on Twitter, you can see me live tweeting the construction of the church. And it's just getting in there with tools and cutting wood and putting it together into shapes and making those parts.
Well, there's something artistic about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, building actual churches, when those are built, those are artistic.
Mm-hmm.
The chapel, the arches, all of that. There's definitely artisan. I definitely need to sleep more before I do podcasts. There's definitely artistic value.
Yes.
In that architecture. So even in that kind of blue collar work, there's art there.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of blue collar work, my family came from, HVAC, there's not much art to that. Putting in ductwork and shit like that.
But I mean, if you do it well and do it in a way that's efficient, and you're putting in an HVAC system and all of a sudden there's a wall here. Okay, how do I effectively get around this wall? How do I create an outflow system for a room that evenly distributes or that avoids certain areas where you don't want direct flow? There's an art to that.
I guess so. I wouldn't.
It's not the same.
No, nowhere near.
But it's still an art, and that's. I mean that.
But by that argument, there's art in everything.
There very well can be.
Fair.
I mean, if you apply skill and thought to your process, and put forth your best. I mean, if you're just going in and it's like, I got to get this thing slapped in here in 4 hours and then move on to the next job. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of art to that. But if you go in there and try and do your, the best possible and make it as clean and as efficient and as functional and as possible, then yeah, there's definitely an art to that.
That's fair. Me personally, like in my early 20s, I did low voltage wiring work. I did high speed internet installation. I never thought there was any art to that. It's like, oh, I'm going to run these lines. I'm going to string them through your drop ceiling as fast as I humanly can so I can get on to my next job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're taking that approach, no, there's no art.
But I definitely see what you're saying. Like,
if you were to come into a room like this and say, okay, I'm going to put in a wired solution for you, and you're not going to be able to see any of it, then there's an art to that.
I've never thought about it that way.
It's going to be everywhere you need to have connection, and it will in no way impede upon what you see in here. Yet will be 100% ergonomically functional and efficient. That's an art.
I never thought about it that way. I never did. Mine kind of blown at the moment. I definitely appreciate the outlook on that. You definitely have me looking at it in a different way.
Yeah, because it's modern and technical, but it's still craftsmanship. I mean, the IT guys of today are the same as, the stone masons and blacksmiths. And I mean, they're the technicians of this day.
They are, but there's nothing that's going to be as aesthetically pleasing as beautiful arches and woodwork versus, trunks of cable. Just not to me, at least. I understand that there is skill that goes into properly wiring all that, properly setting it up, especially so the guy who was not involved in actually wiring it can come in and flawlessly work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever been to like the theater at the Ace Hotel downtown?
Yes.
Like that ancient theater is fucking beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like in our modern society, someone who has the skills to build a place like that they're going away. They won't exist in 20 years, 30, 40 years. How could, modern architecture is just not like that?
But will they build it in a different way?
I feel like a lot of things that are being built today are built to be disposable and built to be cookie cutter.
But if you look at 3D printing,
that's very true.
And all of a sudden, the ability to, in a cost-effective manner, in a relatively short amount of time, create that texture.
No, that's entirely possible.
I mean, will someone sit there with a chisel and carve out that scroll work? Probably not. But will someone sit there with a light pen and a tablet and program a device that will create it for him? And the skill is still there. It's just different tools.
True. Very true. I never even considered that because every time I go in that theater, I'm like, man, no one could recreate this. And I never even thought about 3D printing it. Wow. You were kind of blowing my mind this episode.
That's what I'm here for.
And here I just thought we were going to talk about, peeing in people's mouths.
We can talk about that too. Although your potential co-host isn't here, so that conversation kind of loses a little something.
I know. Two dudes talking about peeing in girls' mouths. Kind of weird. Little weird. But speaking of which, what are your thoughts on, piss play, scat, all that fun stuff?
I enjoy piss play. from either direction. More so on the receiving end than on the giving end.
Okay.
It's just the way I'm wired.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But if the person I'm with asks to receive it versus wanting to give it, or if they want to make it reciprocal, I'm completely fine with that. It doesn't bother me in the least. Scat's a limit for me, and it's more because of the sanitary issues of it. I just can't get around that aspect of it, and to me, it's just not a level of safety that I'm willing to compromise on.
Nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that you were into this, like into the piss play?
Oh, it's something I've seen for a long time. And to be honest, for a while, it was kind of like, I don't know if I'd ever really go for that. And then, oddly enough, and this is something we talked about before, but for those of you who don't know it, my wife and I, we rescue dogs. At the moment, we've got 4 of them.
What are their names? Like, what breeds names?
Breeds and names. Okay. Our mommy dog, even though there's no blood relation between any of them, they're all rescues from different sources. But the one who has taken on the mommy role is Liberty. We found her wandering the streets of Redondo Beach on the 4th of July, a 6-month-old boxer mix puppy. She's been with us for almost 16 years.
Wow.
The oldest dog we've ever had, and we're like, damn, you're still hanging in there, girl. Good for you. She's very much the mommy and very much the grumpy old lady. It's like, you will do this now. Woof. No, you don't understand. Woof. And one of her favorite things to do is just to like lie on top of you until you bend to her will. Next in line is Belladonna. And for those who ask, she was not named after the porn star.
I was just actually about to ask that.
No. And at the time we got her, it was right when the whole Twilight thing, and she's Bella for short, not named for the Twilight character. She is an all black, or was an all black. She's now got a little gray around the muzzle. Chow mix. And she had a nice, because of the mix, she had kind of a almost purplish sheen to her on the short-haired portions of her, and we named her after the plant belladonna, or deadly nightshade.
Yeah.
And for those of you in the LA fetish scene, she was also not named for Sabrina Belladonna, who was a veteran dominatrix back in the early 90s. After that is Theodore, or Teddy. He is a Bernese Mountain Border Collie pit bull mix. He suffers from PTSD and anxiety.
And he'll still give a speech after getting shot?
He doesn't speak too much. He just kind of freaks out at things. So we call him the love sponge. Anybody who's ever been to our studio who has met him, it's like, oh, can I take him? No, you can't take him. But he just wants people to love him and wants to, that affection. But for the first year of his life, he was the youngest of 6 dogs in a household of unfixed dogs and was abused by the other dogs.
Oh, that's...
So it's given him issues that we won't go into here, but it's...
Aw.
Yeah, he's a sweet guy, and we love him, and we're working with him on the issues, and got him on meds, and it's very LA. But yes, we have a dog on Prozac, but it helps. And
how's his therapy sessions?
He hasn't done much therapy, but we actually do, and I'm going to give a shameless plug for the Zen Dog, which is Matt Beisner and his staff over there, amazing trainer, They specialize in large breed rescues, and they've helped us tremendously with all of them. But they do, if you just got a normal dog that needs a place to stay, they will take care of that for you, and they will treat your dog so well. But if you've got a dog, especially a large dog with some issues, Matt will work with you, and he will help you figure out what the hell is going on in that little fuzzy head and help you get it solved. And then the last one is Clyde. He is a blue-nosed pit bull. For those of you on Twitter, he is at Little Dude Clyde. We pulled Clyde out of the Lancaster shelter at roughly 9 months old. Roughly 3 months old. He only weighed 9 pounds. For those of you who know pit bulls, that's really small.
Yeah, that's tiny.
The people at the shelter seem to think it was a parasite, possibly a virus. It turns out he had a condition similar to human acid reflux, which was complicated by an artery wrapped around his esophagus. He's had a bypass. And he is small, but he's I shouldn't say completely healthy, because in the last 2 years he's developed epilepsy. So little guy's had a rough life, but he's just the sweetest, nicest. If ever there was a great ambassador for the pit bull breed, it's Clyde, because, he's not angry, he's not vicious, he's just a sweet little guy who wants to love you and wants to know what you're doing. And but yeah, he's our little one at about 6 years old. So anyway, going off this tangent, back to the original. When we moved into the studio, we didn't have Clyde yet, but and best guess is it was Bella doing this, because I can sense a bit of the Chow vindictiveness in it. For any of you who've ever had a Chow, that's the way they are. She went through an angry stretch where she was not happy with us, and over the course of about a month, peed on me in my sleep 3 times.
Wow. And that's how you figured out the...
Well, that's... Because like I said, I had seen human piss play and was kind of curious about it, interested in it, but was a little on the fence about it. And then this happened, and it's like you're getting peed on almost every morning. What's your hang up here? That shouldn't be something that's bothering you. And that kicked me over the hump. We also kind of straightened Bella out, where she's no longer peeing on me in my sleep, which is...
She's doing it when you're awake?
No, she's not doing it at all. Two things. We're very open-minded, very supportive, and something that I've been, being in the lifestyle for over 30 years, I was taught very early on a phrase called "respect the kink." It's like, what that means is, even if you're not into something, as long as it's involving consensual adults. When you start getting into children and animals...
That's not consensual.
That's not consensual. They're not capable of consenting. That's a completely different thing. But when you're dealing with consensual adults, even if it's something that completely freaks you out, you still have to respect the other person's right to be turned on and get enjoyment from it, if you expect them to respect your rights to get turned on and enjoyment from the things that do it for you.
I 100% agree. I agree about that. My personal mindset is, if you are doing something, whatever it is, and it doesn't harm anyone else, game on.
Well, and see, that's the thing. It's if your thing is, having sex on the metro, well, unless you poll everybody getting on the train before you start it, there's a lack of consent there.
Right. That harms other people.
So, harm...
Psychologically, it could potentially harm someone psychologically.
Harms or just at least puts them at a level of discomfort that isn't appropriate.
Well, harm comes in degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. So, but back to the original thing, it's like if you're not into, if you don't like dressing up in women's lingerie, fine. Don't do it. Don't watch people do it. But if somebody else is getting off on that, you have no right to say that what they're doing isn't allowed.
I agree. I 100% agree.
And it gets into, homosexuality, bisexuality, transgender. Okay, if someone enjoys transgender partners and that doesn't do anything for you, fine. You're not involved in that.
Right.
You just, you turn away, you walk away, you don't be involved. But you have no right to tell them that what they're doing isn't right.
100% agree.
Yeah.
1,000% agree even. No. People need to live their own goddamn lives and have no right to tell other people how they should live.
Exactly.
I mean, that comes with that drugs, alcohol, as long as you're not negatively affecting anyone else.
It's when it crosses that line and starts impacting others, then it becomes a discussion. But, and this is, it's something, in the last year or so, something that's become very popular in the adult industry is, my body, my choice. And I've kind of got a problem with that because I find it very judgmental and confrontational. I think the approach we should be taking is your body, your choice. And it's reciprocal, which means if everybody is saying, your body, your choice, then it is my choice. But if what I'm choosing doesn't agree with what other people are choosing, that doesn't give me the right to look down on them, to criticize them for what they're doing. It just gives me the right to not do that.
And this is a hot button topic right now.
Very much so. I didn't want to get too deep into it because I don't know what your listeners have seen and heard within the industry.
And it's one of those things like, I'm willing to dive into it, but I also want to be respectful to the parties that are actually involved with it, still mourning, and don't want to shit on them with my potential opinions or inflame a situation with, potentially inflame. Who knows if I'll actually inflame anyone with my opinions. So I'm right there with you. It's... Everyone should have the right to have, control over their own body, who they have sex with. Making it a public thing may not be the right avenue.
Well, you've got the right to make that choice
100%
for you. You do not have the right to criticize someone who makes a different choice for them.
100%.
And I think that's something that we as an industry need to, it's nobody has really stepped up and spoken it yet, but it's something we need to. And say, we're approaching this all wrong. We're making it a confrontation. It's like, my choice, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. No, it's not that. It's, you've got your choice. Make your choice. Do what you want, and I'll just be over here.
Right. But you also don't need to take it to the court of public opinion when you make that choice.
No.
Hey, I eat red meat. I don't go to... Well, actually, I do go to Twitter all the time talking about it. Never mind. That was a bad example. In reality, if I wasn't just being a jackass on the internet, if I have a steak, it's no big deal. It's just what's going in my body. It's not something that's newsworthy. If you're a vegan, it's not newsworthy that you're not eating that steak. I feel like I lost my point.
I kind of get where you're going with it. I'm not going to go down the whole vegan path because that's...
Yeah. No, it's a bad parallel. But you have control over your own body. And it's really, when you make that choice, it's nobody's business but your own.
Right. It's like you have control of your own body, but you only have control of your own body.
Right.
You do not have the right to impose your choices on other people.
Right. And 100%. That's your moral values. You wouldn't want someone inflicting on you that you have to carry a child to term because they believe in pro-life.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. That you have to abort that child because it was out of wedlock. Do people do that?
It's a whole lot of... that's a whole nother show. we could go on for a couple of hours on that whole... And what exactly is the deal with the whole pro-life, but not in favor of any kind of health care or support for the life?
Yeah. Once you shit it out, it's your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit of backtrack and a little bit of a tangent on the dogs.
Okay.
So it just is weird timing today. PETA, I got shared a video of PETA in Britain feeding people dog milk.
Okay.
Without telling them. Because their whole thing is, well, if you'll drink, cow milk, why won't you drink dog milk? It's mammal milk.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, no, if it tastes good, cool, game on. On the other hand, I think it's really morally reprehensible that PETA pulled a bait and switch on people. Like, hey, consume this thing under the pretense that it's, cow.
And I agree with you on that. If you choose to ingest cow milk or goat milk or human milk or whatever milk you're making a conscious choice on that particular item.
Right.
If somebody is giving you a different item, then that's iffy. But I mean, my whole view on PETA, and my wife is a vegan. I am progressing towards veganism. I'm far from there yet. But
we're not going for cheeseburgers after this?
Sorry.
I kid.
But ultimately, it's your own choice what you put in your body. And if you choose to put something in your body and later find out that somebody has swapped out and had you put a different something in your body, that's wrong.
100%. For the listeners at home, I shared it on my Facebook page, on the Matt Slayer Facebook page, if you want to see the video. It's really just odd because they're like giving out free samples of this milk, like with like black and white cow splotches on the packaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of their tactics are a little iffy. I'm
against them because they euthanize so many animals for, we're here for the ethical treatment of animals. We're going to euthanize so many animals at their shelters. What's ethical about that? Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was an interesting video. And if dog milk's delicious, what's morally wrong about drinking it? If dogs aren't harmed in collecting it.
That's the thing. It's like, do you have like dog farms or?
Well, it could be argued that dairy farms harm cows.
Yes,
I believe PETA's making that argument.
No, it's not that it can be. It is argued that in many cases they do, but there are ethical farming operations and.
Well, no, factory farms are gross.
Yes, it's probably the biggest problem with our food supply right now is factory farming.
And the worst part about it is, it doesn't make the food taste any better.
No, it makes it taste worse. It makes a less tasty, less healthy, but cheaper product. And that is the whole point of factory farming.
Yeah, it is. You know, I travel abroad a fair amount. And when I go to Europe or I go to Japan, the food just tastes better. Because they're not, pumping animals full of antibiotics because they're in such close quarters that if one of them catches any sort of disease, it will kill the whole herd effectively. They just, have to pump them full of antibiotics. Just preventative medicine.
And they're giving them a very low-cost, generic feed. I mean, and this is kind of a weird way of illustrating this, but it proves the point. If you've ever tasted semen, the taste of it is affected by what the person who ejaculated has consumed. If they smoke a lot of weed, you can tell that in the cum. If they eat fruits, you can tell that. It's whatever goes into your body or into an animal's body is reflected in the consumed product from that body.
Well, and that's like the old joke about, eating pineapple for tasty semen.
Yeah.
Or, if Joe Rogan is to be believed, blueberry bears are supposed to be the most delicious thing ever. Apparently, brown bears up in Canada at one point of the season gorged themselves on blueberries. And the meat is supposed to be delicious.
I have never eaten bear. I probably will never eat bear. But I agree with the logic behind the statement. The quality and characteristics of the diet of the animal creating the consumed product are reflect. So if you eat like just a bland grain processed cheap diet, you're not going to get. I mean, it's the whole concept between Kobe beef is they are feeding them like these special grains and
massaging them
and giving them beer and it's.
Have you ever had Kobe?
I have, and
it's so good.
It is delicious. Even American Wagyu is quite tasty.
It's not quite the same, but it's still...
not quite the same. But the concept still carries over. It's what is going into the animal is evident when you consume it.
So, if y'all eat me, I may get you drunk. Cheers to that. Clink.
Clink.
No, seriously though, I do wake up a lot of mornings and my urine just smells like whiskey. Like, oh man, I may have drank a little too much last night.
It's when you wake up and your whiskey smells like urine that you know you've got a problem.
Tomato.
You do hang out with Charlotte, so.
I do. Diet's very important. I mean, that's why if, Western society really breaks down and we have to resort to cannibalism, man, a lot of it's not going to be good.
No. Because, that guy who's, like, doing the quarter pounder every day is a large quantity of food, but the quality is just not there.
No, it's technically calorie rich. McDonald's is a good and a bad thing at the same time. It is a very calorie rich meal for not much money, which is a good thing if that's all you can afford.
Well, but why are you eating? Are you eating for fuel, which is calories?
Right.
Or are you eating for health, which is nutrients?
Well, if I'm in a bad social economic place, I may be just eating for fuel.
Okay. Then yes, the dollar menu is a godsend.
But on the flip side, they are killing people with their meals.
Yes.
It's
and to clarify that, they are not killing people to put them in the meals. They were just killing them by what they eat. And
Not yet.
yeah.
Maybe in a couple of years when we progress to like,
Oh my God, it's people! For all you old film people.
Your Charlton Heston's a little off.
It was quick. I didn't have time to sit. See, I can do accents, but it takes me a couple of minutes to like get deep.
Get in the zone.
I got to get into that zone. It's funny because I used to do a lot of work up in Canada, and I found out very late in the project that my crew in Toronto thought I was from Calgary. My crew in Calgary thought I was from Toronto.
Weird.
Because I assimilate to accents. So, after about half an hour of being around Canadians, I start to develop the about. You betcha, eh?
So what happens in Montreal?
Didn't go to Montreal on this project.
Well, that's a shame. I hear the sex clubs are amazing.
I've been to Montreal once. It was wonderful, but I was far too young to partake of the sex clubs.
On yet another tangent, because we've had
because that's the way we go here at And Now You Drink. It's
now we drink. It's not me. It's not just me. It is a social.
Yes, it is we drink. Yes,
it's a social drinking. That our neighbors to both the north and south are okay with prostitution. Yet, America, we're not.
No.
Except in rural Nevada.
It's a weird thing. I mean, to be honest, couldn't ask for too much better neighbors than Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
Some of the gangs down in Mexico and the criminal element are a bit rough, but
I feel like in a lot of cases our own puritanical laws created those gangs.
That's entirely possible. We did create a market for them.
Hey, capitalism, supply and demand. Mm-hmm. They have the supply, we got the demand.
Yeah. But, I mean, Mexican food, I love Mexican food. Tequila, it's wonderful.
Shout out to Ghost Tequila, sponsoring the show.
The folks up north, excellent people. I've enjoyed every moment I've spent up there. They've got some of the best strip clubs in the world.
I've heard that. When I was younger, I was literally going to take a road trip to Toronto just for the strip clubs. Sadly, never panned out.
I am going to divulge a little about the other side of my life. I spent a season working the Canadian Football League during what is referred to as the American Experiment. For those who don't know that, in the mid-90s, the Canadian Football League had four United States teams.
Really? I did not know that. Where?
Sacramento, Las Vegas, Birmingham, and Baltimore.
Birmingham?
Big football country down there.
Well, true, but you'd figure they'd have a place somewhere in Texas if they really were going for big football country.
They were talking about San Antonio. The money was better in Sacramento, I believe. But that was the American Experiment. They expanded, and I bounced back and forth between north of the border, south of the border. Didn't actually attend any games in Birmingham or Vegas. Did a couple in Sacramento. Did a bunch in Baltimore. A lot in Toronto. Many in Edmonton, Calgary. But the playoffs that year ended up for the Grey Cup, which is their Super Bowl. Vancouver versus Baltimore in Vancouver. And I was in a strip club in Vancouver, and I convinced a reporter from ESPN that me and my best friend had driven our Winnebago from Baltimore for the game. And that's why we were there.
That's so good.
until like 2 days later when he sees me down on the field at the game and realizes he just did this great story about these two guys who drove their Winnebago from Baltimore to Vancouver. And, oh no, they actually work for the same company I do, and they're here televising. But it was kind of a big fuck you to them, because anytime you deal with large companies, there's a disconnect. And we had been doing game coverage all season long. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to us, the news side of our organization had been going around doing feature stories and not telling us. So we finally found out that they had been like doing all these feature stories that we could have collaborated on and made like shared resources and aired them during our shows and all that stuff. So we did a little dig at them. But in general, Canadian strip clubs are fantastic. One little pro tip here, though. If you're only tipping $1, do not throw the tip at your stripper.
Yeah, because their dollars are coins, right?
Uh-huh. However, if you got a bunch of dollars, there's some talented ladies up there that will make them disappear.
Good to know. Mm-hmm. See, we're an educational show, too.
We're opening your minds to different cultures, different worlds.
It is fucked up that, like, I've been many places. I still haven't actually been to Canada. I've been to, 5 out of 7 continents. Never been to Canada.
You're ahead of me. I've been to 2 continents.
Well, one of my life goals is to have sex in all 7 continents.
Okay.
Sadly, not sadly, but I have to go back to Australia because I zigged where I should have zagged there. And when I go back to Africa, I got to bring somebody with me because it's a little sketchy trying to have sex in South Africa.
Yeah, that's the thing. Africa's a big continent, and it's a very diverse continent.
Definitely.
So what's going on in the Congo? Maybe not the same as down in South Africa or up
the HIV rates in South Africa are still really high.
In Egypt or over in...
I mean, I want to go to Morocco. Oh. I kind of want to go to Casablanca at some point. Just I'm in Casablanca.
It's Casablanca. I mean, who wouldn't want to go there? Got to bring a trench coat, though.
Definitely. And a fedora.
Uh-huh. See, I'm really a hat guy, though.
I am because it's sponsored.
Uh-huh.
I want to go there, but the one time I went to Africa, I went to Cape Town.
Okay.
And had a blast down there. It's a little sketchy, but I had a good time. Only place I've ever had like a crime committed against me out of country. I got pickpocketed.
Okay.
And I know exactly who fucking did it. And that man is brave. Because if I had caught him, I probably would have beaten the snot out of him. It's like 4 a.m. I'm drunk. I'm hanging out on a patio with some locals I just met.
Okay.
And there are super aggressive panhandlers down there. They hear an American accent, they will follow you for blocks.
Target.
And I have a pair of pretty nice leather cowboy boots that I sometimes have been known to wear. And I'm rocking the boots. Dude rolls up to me, lifts my pant leg a little bit. Oh man, those are some really nice boots. And I just think he's an aggressive panhandler. And he's just like tugging on my pant leg, like, oh, those are nice boots. Security scares him off.
He got your wallet, didn't he?
No, he got my mobile Wi-Fi.
Oh.
That's it. And they're like, oh man, you gotta watch out. They'll grab your phone. I'm like, thanks for warning me, assholes. Thankfully, my phone was sitting in the breast pocket of my leather jacket that I had put on the girl I just met. So he got my mobile Wi-Fi, because I pulled my phone out. I'm like, I have no service all of a sudden. Fuck. I mean, I went and bought another one the next day. It wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah, it's a replaceable.
Yeah, didn't get my phone, didn't get my wallet, didn't get my passport. Especially because the U.S. consulate's in Johannesburg, not Cape Town.
Uh-huh.
I would have been proper fucked if I had lost my passport. But, in all my traveling abroad, that's the only problem I've ever had. So, I count myself pretty lucky. Fairly, I wouldn't say blessed, but lucky. That's all that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I haven't traveled abroad nearly as much as I would like to.
That's a shame.
But I've had some amazing experiences. Basically just in Europe, Mexico, and Canada. Haven't made it down to Australia yet.
Australia's fun. It's a shame you're married because they really like American dudes down there. I went into a bar and girls were just buying me drinks. Like, you're an American? What are you doing here? I'm like, partying?
My brother lived in Australia for a year.
I'm sure he could collaborate my story.
He probably would.
It's a great place.
He spoke very highly of it, and it's funny. One of the members of our, going back to the beginning of this podcast and the film group, one of the members of the group actually moved to New Zealand to support his wife, who is a veterinarian down there now. She found a program. Both of them are Americans, but she found a program down there and went there to go to school, and she finished school and had fell into work there. He had went from a kind of mid-level executive position in the LA film industry to a much better position down there.
Very cool.
So he's doing really well for himself down there as a film producer. He got back into acting.
Are you working with Peter Jackson, or?
I'm not sure if he's done anything with Peter Jackson. And I'm not gonna say too much about what he's done because
no need to call him out.
Yeah, but he was in a recent family-oriented film, which we were all quite. It's like, wait a second, that's okay. But yeah, he's doing really well down there. Working in the industry, both as a advocate and helping people, helping other people get into the industry, and then as a producer himself. So that's
awesome. I feel like more people should see the world. It's crazy to me that only something like 30% of Americans even have passports, and only 10% of that 30% even use them.
Mm-hmm.
Blows my mind. People, go see the world. It's a great place. You'll be exposed to things that you would never imagine. Like Canadian strip clubs.
Austrian skiing.
Weird Japanese casinos.
The Hellfire Club in England.
I'm trying to think of what else has just been really odd. Cuba is just its own trip, and I'm really bummed that they've closed it back down.
It'll pop open again.
I certainly fucking hope so. But I also hope that when it pops back open, there's no Starbucks or any of that bullshit there.
Unfortunately, I think that's what might pop it. I think the business side of it and that new available market will eventually become too irresistible. Sadly.
Yeah. I'm super thrilled that I got to go before there was any Americana there.
I wish I could have gone. I would have loved.
You still can. You can just gateway through Canada or Mexico. The Cuban, immigration is really good about not stamping passports if you don't want them to. It's a wild place. I went in February, like when you could get direct flights. But it had been on like my to-do list for over a decade. It's a wild place. I've talked about it a bunch of times on air. I won't bore the listeners with it again. But seriously, if there's anywhere you need to go in this world, it's Cuba, because it's like a goddamn time capsule.
I can see that.
And there's just something to be said for being off grid for fucking the whole time. There's no internet there.
I actually read a really interesting article about the Cuban internet. It's fascinating what they have to do just to get what we considered top quality internet, like back in like 94.
Oh, it's crazy. You have to buy prepaid cards, and there's only certain areas that they work.
And it's like a laundromat is a Wi-Fi hotspot for the entire town that you're in, and you can only get access at certain times, and
it's all prepaid.
Yeah.
You have these scratch off cards. And that gives you so much time, and places will sell out of them. So when I was there, I literally my phone was a camera for the whole trip.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even bother to try to get a prepaid card. I'm like, you know what? I'm on vacation. I'm just going to be off grid. And there's something to be said for just fucking disconnecting. You and I are both old enough to remember when you had to use payphones and call people's houses, and if they weren't home, you were leaving them a message and you'd try to connect with them later.
Yeah.
No more instant connectivity. There's something refreshing about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's something refreshing about not always being connected. Not expecting that someone is going to instantly respond to you when you send them a message or a call.
It's funny because we actually went through this afternoon because we were sending out the last of our holiday gifts to family, and we were putting cards in and I remembered back to when I had a list, and I would do like 150 handwritten holiday cards to family and friends and business associates. And now I didn't even put that much news in the 4 cards that I wrote to family members because I've emailed all of them in the last week or so, and we're constantly updating. We're emailing photos back and forth, and we constantly know what everybody is up to. And
it's definitely hurt interpersonal relationships. I have friends from back east that I'll go 6 months without talking to because they're like, dude, I see what you do on social media.
Yeah.
I see what you're up to. There's no point. Like, I don't have to follow up with you. And it sucks. Part of the reason that sucks is because I don't feel like anyone is really, truly honest on their social media. Everyone's putting out what they want to present to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're people that you have, in theory, tight interpersonal relationships with are just going off that interpersonal relationship off of what you present versus actually having a conversation with you, that's fucked.
Yeah. Well, it's also the quality of what you're... Not so much the quality, but the level of what you're putting out there.
Definitely.
It's... I went here and did this, but you don't really talk about the deep feelings of it. Or it's like, for example, I went to New Orleans and did this and this, and my family will see that, but what they're not seeing is that the time I spent there, the 2 hours I spent in this little hole-in-the-wall jazz bar, remembering the time I spent in a very similar jazz bar with my grandfather 15 years before that. And that never pops up in the social media.
Yeah, and it'd be problematic to express that even if you wanted to.
And but for very select people in my life, it would be very meaningful.
Definitely. I just, and there's things that you just don't post on social media. Like, I have a story that happened last week, that little while that's still being kind of resolved, that I've called a handful of friends and told them. I'm like, I won't even text this because there doesn't need to be records of what went down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're one of my friends who's just following my life on social media, you'll never know that this really pertinent thing happened.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. It's not really connecting with people. People have thousands of friends. For the audience at home, I totally air quoted there. But those aren't really your friends. They're just your sea of acquaintances.
Yes.
I feel like we're getting a little deep. Mm-hmm. Might need a refill for that.
Yeah, we could do that.
We'll pause real quick because I think we both need ice. So we took another break. We refilled our glasses.
Got ice.
Got ice. And all of a sudden we started talking industry stuff off mic because we're been drinking and didn't think about actually sharing this conversation with you guys, our fucking loyal audience.
So we're going to backtrack a little. And something that you said was that if you were going to go into the industry
if you were a industry newbie, I would not recommend you coming into the industry unless you're willing to be a full production house for yourself.
And I would disagree with that to an extent. If you're going to come into the industry now, you need to have multiple revenue streams.
Definitely.
I don't think it's a yes or no on producing your own content because some people are just not cut out for that. And
that's when you find a friend who can help you out.
Well, or you do that, or do you leverage your shoots for other companies to build your brand as a cam performer and a feature dancer?
All of the above.
Skills that I mean, there are about a dozen different ways you can make money in adult entertainment.
Definitely.
And
I think you should be hitting all 12 of them.
I think you should be hitting 4 to 6 of them. Because everybody is not proficient enough to succeed at all 12.
You're right. Some people will fall right the fuck off the pole.
Yeah. I mean, if you completely lack coordination, feature dancing isn't for you. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't mean you won't succeed in an adult. It just means that one of your revenue streams should not be feature dancing.
I definitely have worked with some girls that got out of stripping and got into, porn to avoid being in strip clubs. They just weren't into the hustle of it. And they shouldn't go back to being feature dancers if that's not comfortable for them.
And that's the thing. It's if your skill set tailors to feature dancing, then do that. If you're really good at talking to strangers, be a cam performer. If you're...
Well, but with the cam performer, you got to be good at talking to strangers, and you also have to be disciplined enough to be on cam the same time.
Well, but I think the discipline aspect applies no matter which path you choose. If you're not willing to put in the time, you're not going to succeed, whether it's as a clip producer, as a feature dancer, as a cam performer.
I feel that's a slightly different muscle, though. It's with camming, you got to be there consistently for your regulars at a certain time, and it almost becomes a 9 to 5.
Right. But it's the same with feature dancing. You just have to be at the club from 5 p.m. till 2 a.m. on, commit to 2-4 weekends a month, whatever.
Yeah. But
it's a time commitment that varies depending on your situation.
Right, but also during downtime when you're feature dancing, you get to explore cities.
Yeah.
They feed you.
Wait, they feed you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Hell, some strip clubs have really good kitchens.
Oh, that I know. I didn't realize that the dancers actually ate there.
Oh, yeah. I haven't done a roadie gig in a while, but I miss them sometimes.
Because this, again, back to the mainstream, back in the day, I used to do a ton of work at the old Forum in Inglewood. And we would end up at a place called the Wild Goose. And no disrespect intended, but they were not the most attractive dancers. But the kitchen was decent, and the drinks were cheap. And the security was good.
Hey, that's a winning combo right there.
And in that part of L.A., the security was good is a major selling point.
Definitely.
But so we ended up there all the time after we'd do a Kings game, a Lakers game, a boxing show, whatever, and we would head over to the Wild Goose because it was a place where we could go where we didn't have to worry about getting mugged. We had secure parking. Our car would be there when we got out. We could get decent drinks, and get a bite to eat. But yeah, and another story. Down the street from our studio, we had an amazing strip club for about 6 months. It's a place called Buck Wild's, and it was a cowboy themed strip club that included topless bull riding. But
You can't go wrong there.
well, you could go terribly wrong there, but it's still fun to watch.
Well, it's terribly wrong for someone else. For me, it's great.
Yes. And I don't know where they found him, what happened to him, but they just happened to stumble onto an amazing chef. And the food there just kicked ass. So that was our go-to post-shoot journey. After it's like we would shoot scenes all day, and then like everybody would walk the 2 blocks down to the club. We would watch the girls do the topless bull, but we would eat really good food. And for those of you who are not in porn, actually for those of you who are in porn, production managers, producers, the secret to success, the secret to having happy performers that love you to death, that want to come back and shoot from you all the time, is having a really good, when we're done, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat plan. Our second plan is it's a place called Mr. Ramen down in Little Tokyo. Damn good bowl of soup. But when you've been working all day, just to go down there, nobody knows who you are. You walk in, you get a table. It's like $10 a bowl, if that. You get a beer or whatever. And it's just this really good bowl of really amazing ramen.
Stop. I'm getting fucking hungry here.
But my point is, you need a good, all right, we just finished up. Let's go wind down. Let's
go bond as people.
Feed the machine. Because
you burned a lot of fucking calories.
If you're doing anal that day, you might not have eaten that much coming into this. And it's just a really good experience.
Yeah. There's something to be said for just sharing a fucking meal, sharing a drink. Cheers to that.
Always.
That's what we try to do here is, bond, drink, have good times. No, it's super important. It's super important that, everyone gets to know each other, not just here, show up, fuck, collect a paycheck, bye.
I mean, to me, we're all people.
We're people, and we're a really small community, really.
Yeah, but we need to behave as people and as a community. And the more we can do that, the better it is for everything.
Fuck yes. Yeah, we should be trying to step away from the high school drama that often happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. It's almost time for prom.
Oh, boy. I got my tux.
My tux is sitting in a box over there, actually.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm probably going in character on the red carpet, but...
Character?
Well, I'm going to go as the rabbi I played in Jews Love Black Hawk.
Oh, okay.
Just because a lot of people have encouraged me to do it and thought I would get some really funny write-ups just walking the carpet as a rabbi.
Now I'm conflicted.
Why?
Because I have a great... And for those of you who have seen me walk the red carpet at award shows, I have... It's almost a fetish for the vintage tuxedo.
Long tails and everything?
Haven't done the tails. It's more... I mean, my personality... late 50s through the 60s, so it's dinner jackets and everything. So I've got a great tux for AVN this year. But for those of you who have followed me as a performer, I have appeared occasionally as Father Jim. I do have a full-blown priest. So now it's like, do I show up with you as the priest and the rabbi and just beg for world peace?
Right?
Can we all get along?
Can't we all just get along? Oh, that'd be a lot of fun. Shit.
We might just... Now, you're going to do that for the regular... Maybe we just walk the floor some afternoon doing that.
I got to buy a bunch of Manischewitz before I do that, because I can't do AVN sober. Be totally against what I stand for. I keep joking with Joanna. I'm like, do I actually have to sign this year?
Has she given you Doom?
So, I was there for when they did their first release at a liquor store, and I showed up to drink a lot for free. They're doing the show in the next couple of weeks to actually bring some bottles and sit down again. Because both Small Hands and Joanna have done the show in the past. This is going to be the first time I get to have them on as a couple. Small Hands was actually guest number 1.
Oh.
We told weird strip club stories. Go back to episode 1 when we used to be the 288 podcast. Back when Draven Star was still my co-host.
Oh. I love Draven.
I do too. It was good to see her. I actually went to a barbecue at her place a week and a half ago. So
okay.
She's off doing her thing.
We have kicked around the idea of shooting together and just haven't made it happen yet, but we have to.
No, you definitely should. Draven's an amazing performer.
She is. And I feel bad because she was shooting for somebody else at our studio, and her husband was there, and she and I were sharing a little bit of Bullet Rye, and I didn't realize her husband was her husband because I'd never met him before. And to me, he was just like some dude coming up, hey, can I have some of your good stuff? And it's like, no.
No, dude, who are you? No, I totally get that.
And then I found out after, it was like, oh, that was Draven's. And now I feel like an asshole for not giving him some too, because I had been out. I was shooting for somebody else that day, and I came back to the studio, and they were on hour 12 or something. And,
that's the worst.
It's a mutual friend of ours who tends to. He's an artist, and
enough said.
I respect that, but you need that. Somebody needs to be your time cop. And
well, that's what a good PA should do, is just fucking move shit along.
But unfortunately, he, as an independent, he doesn't have the full-blown crew to have the production manager, to have the PAs, to have and he tends to drag things out. And
that sucks, because people will not want to work with him because they don't want to be stuck on set for a whole goddamn day.
Yeah.
Unless he's really throwing the cash around.
Yeah, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, he's just hurting himself.
Again, it's the independent thing. The cash ain't there yet, so.
But if he's not getting people in and out of set, he's just hurting himself, because people will be like, I'm going to make rate, and then I'm going to be there all fucking day.
Yeah.
Or I could, go work for somebody else and be in and out. I was on a Wicked set a couple weeks ago, and I made some joke about it being I'm here before my call time because I know how these things go, and the director looked at me like, the fuck you mean? We run a professional set here. We'll have you out in 2 hours like we told you. Okay, my bad. Please don't kill me.
Quasar?
Stormy. I've known Stormy for years, and she was just kind of like, really? I'm like, I've never worked for you. We've been friends forever.
Stormy and I are casual acquaintances. Brad and Jessica and I have become friends. Quasar and I are very close friends. If you haven't had him on the podcast,
that's one of the things I need to set up.
I don't know how much alcohol you want to pour into him.
All the alcohol. All of it. I'll get him a barf bag next to him.
Just get him an Uber, okay?
I can do that too.
Okay. But he is, For those of you who follow Mike Quasar online, yes, he's the bitter, sarcastic dad in this industry. And for those of you who know him in person, we love him for that. He is genuinely one of my best friends in this industry, one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. If he's on something that he doesn't have a overwhelming passion for, he is probably the most efficient shooter I've ever met.
No, I've been on a bunch of BA sets with him, and he knocks it out.
Yeah, he is a pro's pro, but I mean, when he gets the opportunity to let his creative juices flow, they are phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to see something that someone just said, "Here, you've got a budget. We want you to make your movie." His stuff is fantastic. And to be honest, the stuff where he says, "Okay, we need you to shoot 4 stepdaughters banging their stepdads while their uncles watch at a truck stop," he actually does that extremely well too.
He does everything well.
There's
a reason everyone hires him.
Yeah.
People don't get hired in this business if they suck. It's too small.
Well, some people get hired to suck, but
to suck, not because they do suck.
Yes.
It's a major difference.
Well, there are also a couple of people who just suck, who somehow manage to hang on in this.
But I feel they're few and far between.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're very talented. They just suck. If you have no talent and you suck, you definitely will not survive.
No.
But we're actually at about that time.
What time?
Last call.
Oh, boy.
So where can we find you on the social medias and your various productions?
Okay. Productions, the best place is severesexfilms.com. We're also available as Severe Sex and Severe Society on Adult Empire, Hot Movies, Fetish Movies, ABN, and GameLink. And as far as social media goes, I think we have an Instagram. I don't know if they've killed us yet. We don't really exploit it the way we should, but then again, that's probably why we might still have an Instagram. But it's Severe Sex Films on Instagram. On Twitter, Fetish Director, capital F, capital D. And if you want the company line, it's Severe Sex Films on Twitter. If you're interested in more of the dog stuff, Little Dude Clyde, he's got his own little Twitter. And the whole reason for that, when we first brought him in as a foster, because of the medical issues, we were doing some fundraising to pay those bills. And we realized the easiest way to get information out about his progress and what we were going through was to give him a Twitter. And
it makes perfect sense to me.
So once he got healthy, it's like, well, he's got a Twitter. He's got some followers. He
probably has more followers than I do.
I don't know about that, but yeah, little dude Clyde's got his own little Twitter, and he talks about life with his brother and his sisters, and being a dog and a porn company, and just life in general. And for those of you who haven't caught on to it, probably one of the great undiscovered Twitters, and it hasn't been updated in a while, but we're going to get him on that, is Fluffer the Porn Plant. He is the primary set decoration plant at our studio, and he loves this industry. He loves being a porn plant. He's a bit miffed that Spiegler won't return his emails for representation because he realizes that.
Well, can't be a Spiegler girl,
but he could be he could be the first Spiegler plant. You know, he does a lot. I mean, if you look at who he's been on set with,
Did Harvey Weinstein masturbate into him?
I hope not. But yeah, Fluffer the Porn Plant on Twitter. You'll see a lot of pretty girls with a really robust plant.
Well, yeah, we definitely don't want girls with like a weak plant.
No. And for those of you who've been on porn sets, you know, frequently it's a semi-dead ficus. It's something plastic from Target. It hasn't been dusted since probably the Clinton administration.
I was about to say since John Holmes was on set.
Which is it's just about the same.
I thought Holmes was done. Well, yeah, I guess early Clinton administration.
Early Clinton.
Yeah. I just rewatched Wonderland not too long ago.
Great movie.
Oh, yeah. Val Kilmer fucking kills it.
Yes. Although, you know, Boogie Nights is still the best mainstream movie about porn.
Yeah. Wonderland's not really about porn. It just happens to be about
a porn performer, but
in a really weird situation.
Oh yeah,
that whole thing. If you've never watched Wonderland, the whole thing is true crime and stranger than fiction.
Yes.
And rewatching it, there's a couple parts that are a little overacted, a little cheesy. For the audience at home that is probably aware of this, I sadly have become hypercritical about films recently. A friend of mine sends me his scripts to critique and analyze, and I've been having problems turning that off when I watch movies recently, which has been killing some enjoyment for some movies I really used to love.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, for the most part, it's still a really interesting film, and especially if you delve into the true crime facts about it. You know, the Wonderland murders, Eddie Nash, all that stuff. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And once again, we went on another tangent as we're doing sign-offs.
Oh. Which gets me to a quick question.
What's up?
Favorite movies?
Oh, goddamn. That is a super rough question. So for me, what I consider a favorite movie is a movie that whenever it comes on, I will watch it. Because obviously, you look at my wall. I like movies. I love movies.
You do.
Pulp Fiction. I'll watch Pulp Fiction whenever it comes on.
Mm-hmm.
I may be that asshole who's reciting lines along with it. Strange Days. Catherine Bigelow, written by James Cameron. There's definitely some like 90s cheesiness to it. But the overall like dark themes. Yeah. Have you seen it?
I have not. But now I will.
So the plot is Ralph Fiennes plays a drug dealer of the future. Like this movie takes place in 1999, came out in 94 or 95.
Okay.
He's an ex-vice cop that sells clips, which they sell. They have a thing that records people's memories from their cerebral cortex and can be played back where you feel everything the wearer.
Okay.
So it's super porn. And that's what he does. He sells this. And there's a murder mystery that becomes involved with it. Ralph Fiennes, Angela Bassett, Tom Sizemore before Sizemore went really crazy. Directed by Catherine Bigelow of the Hurt Locker fame. Written by James Cameron because they were still married at the time.
Okay.
It's a great film. Really dark cyberpunk themes. Takes place over New Year's Eve 1999 before Y2K happened. And
okay. Yeah.
Before we realized,
did you realize that we're just days away from the fact that people who are born in the 2000s will be in porn legally?
Yeah. It kind of fucks me up. I mean, I'm super happy that I'm at the age that I can legally fuck someone half my age.
I'm actually contemplating grandpa porn at this point. Because if you do the math and have some promiscuous teenagers, I am old enough to be the grandfather of performers.
This is definitely a thing.
I hope so, because I need the money. As much as I enjoy this industry, I still got to pay bills. So
Yeah. Food's not going to, just hand itself to you.
Even as a vegan, I still have to buy those fruits and vegetables.
Hell, it's more expensive.
In some ways it is, yeah. That's.
So, sidetracking on the vegan thing, have you been to Doomies?
I have not.
I heard about Doomies from Frank Mir and Richard Hunter, who do Phone Booth Fighting.
Okay.
It's an MMA podcast. I've been on it. They're friends of mine. Frank is the 2-time UFC World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
Like, avid meat eater. Richard, his broadcast partner, is a vegan. There is a place in LA called Doomies where Frank swears their their vegan cheeseburger is so good that if all vegan food tasted like that, he would go vegan.
Okay.
So I want to check it out. So whenever I come across someone who's...
Well, apparently there's this new thing called the Incredible Burger that has just been developed and is getting exposure. And we need to hunt that down here in LA and give it a shot.
Someone needs to give me a blind taste test and be like, here's a real burger, here's the Incredible Burger. Can you tell the difference?
And to be honest, on some of the substitutes, we found a ground beef substitute that's pretty damn. It's close enough that we don't notice it in tacos, in cooked meals. We found chicken nuggets that are more than passable. Yeah, there's some things that we'll probably never replicate.
Like a full steak.
Yeah. But if you're not... My approach to it is never been to go for exact duplication. Is can you give me a meal that's plant-based that kind of hits some of the high points and is tasty in its own right?
That's fair. I'll eat anything if it's cooked properly, but I like bloody red meat.
I used to love bloody red meat. I probably would have problems eating it at this point, but I think the real turning point for me was actually AVN last year.
What happened?
We had the pitch dinner for Corrupted by the Evils of Fetish Porn, and we had decided that we wanted Casey Warner to take the female lead. So we took her to dinner at Nobu at the Hard Rock. And Casey and Dee are both vegan. So they have a tasting menu, and it's a wonderful experience because you tell your waiter, okay, we want the tasting menu, and these are the parameters. So if you don't like red meat, if you like red meat but have a seafood allergy, if whatever meal food specifications you have, you give those to your waiter, and they bring you, I think it's 14 little
small
plates that fit those parameters. So Dee and Casey did vegan. Mine was vegan or vegetarian and seafood, so pescatarian.
I'd be really, really amazed if they could bring me 14 small plates that once had hopes and dreams.
But it was a phenomenal meal, and it's like, okay, it's possible to do this thing and still have really good, tasty food.
Oh, it definitely is. I like meat. Mm-hmm. And I haven't met a woman who's, been strong enough to break me of it. So, because that's the only way that's ever going to happen is that I get involved with someone and, the brain chemistry makes me so in love with her that I give up red meat. Hasn't happened yet. May never happen.
And you may never give it up. But if you can scale it back.
Why would I want to do that?
Because it's good for you, good for the planet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Rather than red meat 7 days a week, maybe really good red meat once a week.
I would rather just have really good red meat 7 days a week.
Okay.
I just need to be more successful.
There you go.
Oh, the talk of Kobe earlier, by the way, there's a place in Tokyo I know that's across the street from the Ritz-Carlton in Roppongi. For about $45 US, for 2 hours is all you can eat teppanyaki, including Kobe sashimi.
Okay.
These are the things that make me really happy.
I'm a bad vegan because all you can eat really good sushi is still my downfall.
Fish are no more smart than vegetables. It's okay. Hell, vegetables are smarter than fish in some cases. It's true.
Okay.
There's study. I may have heard this on a podcast, not an actual study, but there are.
If they say it on the internet, it has to be true, doesn't it?
Ooh, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Ooh, no. But there are some plants that, when caterpillars eat them, release a scent to the other plants to make themselves, that causes them to be a bad flavor to their predator.
I've never heard that. It makes sense, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, if plants are sentient and
fish aren't,
meat is sentient, what do we eat?
Fish are dumb. Fish are really stupid.
Okay.
They're like, oh, shiny. Oh, whoops, I'm hooked.
Yeah, the problem is the fish supply has some issues.
Oh, well, once again, commercial anything with agriculture is the real problem.
Yes.
Well, and combine that with, there's just too many of us monkeys. There are too many of us pleasure monkeys on this planet. Stop breeding. Do your part. That's my message. Please stop breeding.
Breed in a responsible manner.
Yeah, don't. That's the responsible part. There's billions of us.
Yes.
Are you so egotistical that you really need a mini you running around? Fuck no.
Mini me scares the crap out of me.
Oh, I never plan on breeding. Never.
No, we have gone down that path. I mean, I love my nieces and nephews to death, but don't need a set of them for my own.
I'm right there with you. I spoil the hell out of my niece because she's definitely going to float my body down the Ganges one of these days. Because that's my only hope. I hope, when shit gets really fucked up, she puts me in a good home.
Yeah. I mean, we're sort of counting on my sister to do that for my mom. It's like, Betsy, you do realize that mom's your responsibility when it all goes south.
Betsy, if you listen to the show,
she doesn't. That's a discussion for another day.
Fair enough. My mother and my sister actually do listen to this show.
Oh. See, my mother would probably listen. She's been, from day one, has been incredibly supportive and understanding. She, every so often, will say, I don't need to know that much. But in terms of, what we're doing, if that's what you chose to do with your life, then good for you, and I will support you and do what I can to help you.
In 90s shows, my mother has only been offended so much to turn it off once. And that was with comedian Sam Tripoli. And me and Sam just bullshitted. We talked a lot of comedy, but she felt he was so misogynistic that she's like, I couldn't listen to it. Like, these things happen. I feel in 90 shows, if I only offended my mother turning off once, that I may be fucking up.
Or you got a really cool mom.
No, I actually really do have a really cool mom. My mom was a dom when I was a teenager, like for funds, not for profit.
Okay.
Like she was a lifestyle dom, not a for-profit dom. I've told this story on air a bunch of times. So like, she had a rack in her living room, and my cousins came by her place at one point. She threw a sheet over it. She's like, don't tell them what that is.
Because a sheet is plenty of obfuscation.
It'll obfuscate it. They have no idea.
There we go.
No idea what that...
where I was going with that.
Yeah, exactly. When we actually wrap, I'll actually go pull one of her toys, because I inherited all her toys when she stopped. And she had some really quality, like, toys made.
Oh. And, I mean, as a lifestyle player and as a professional, we've inherited and or bought out a number of studios and pro doms that have retired, moved on, downsized, whatever. And it's one of my favorite things because you get this amazing energy and like life force from these items that have been possessed by someone else who really got pleasure from them. And now they're yours and you get to get pleasure from them.
Well, it's kind of crazy because I remember being a teenager and going into a leather shop with her when she was having this stuff commissioned.
Okay.
And it's just like, did not comprehend where I was at the time. I'm just kind of like, where am I? And my mom's in a leather shop having custom toys made. It's like, okay, cool. This is where we're at. So I'm kind of fell into this shit at a young age, I guess. Wow, we were trying to rap, but whatever.
Yeah. A little bonus content for you.
Exactly. It's not like we have to go to the next show. We're not on terrestrial radio where someone else is trying to get in studio at the moment. I totally forgot where we were going with that.
I think we were wrapping up.
We were. So, now that we're back to wrapping up, if you don't know already, you can find me at Matt_Slayer on Twitter, Matt Slayer on Instagram, Matt F. Slayer on Facebook, Matt Slayer on Snapchat. You can find the podcast at And Now We Drink on Twitter, at Now We Drink _ on Instagram, because someone else stole And Now We Drink. www.andnowwedrink.com. Same old shit. We're going to keep bringing it to you every fucking week, guys. Keep tuning in. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you listening. We love our drinking buddies. Until next time, cheers all. Oh, clink.